Okay, so I'm going to show you how to use your calculator. I have a TI 83 Plus here. Some of you have a 84 and some other types that are very similar to this, and pretty much the workings are the same in terms of doing this sort of thing. The first thing I want you to do, though, is check the mode button, which is right next to this yellow key, and make sure your calculator is in degree mode. And as you can see, degree is highlighted there. So there's two choices, radian or degree. Now, you might wonder, then hit the clear button. You might wonder, how do I know I want degrees? Well, there's a big hint. There's a degree in there when they're talking about the angle. So the first thing I need to do, though, is I need to change the 18 minutes to a decimal. And that comes out to 0.3. How do I know that? Well, here's how to do it. Turn on your calculator and do 18 divided by 60, and you get 0.3. So now I'm going to type in cosine of 16.3. So type cosine and then 16.3 and then hit enter. And once you do that, you can read a decimal off of there. We want a decimal to 4 places. The directions in the book say to round to 4 places, so the answer comes out to be 0.9598. 0.9598. So that's the decimal equivalent for cosine of 16 degrees 18 minutes. All right. Let's try another one. Suppose I want to do the sine of 73 degrees 56 minutes. What's the first thing I'm going to do? Change that to a decimal. Do you remember how? So I'm really going to do the sine of 73 point something degrees. All right. Clear your calculator. Take 56 divided by 60. You get a decimal. This one comes out to be 0.93, and it goes on forever. All right, leave that into your calculator. You've changed that to a decimal. Just do plus 73. Plus 73, hit enter, and now you have 73 in that long decimal. You can double check with your own calculator while we do this. Now I want the sine of that, so I'm going to press the sine button. You know where the sine button is, right? Press the sine button, and then rather than type that in, I'm going to use the second answer key and then hit enter, and I will get the decimal, and I didn't have to type it in. It's better to use the second answer key. That way you will not do a typo, okay? And the answer comes out to and we want 4 decimal places, so 0.9609. The next number is 4, so I'm not going to change that 9. I'm going to keep it like that. So there's a few of these in the book for you to do. Hopefully you can try those. Now there's also some other problems that have more than just minutes there, but they have minutes and seconds. So let's try one of those. Let me just erase this. And suppose I wanted to do number 34 out of the book. And it says to find the secant of 56 degrees, 8 minutes, 10 seconds. So this one's a little bit longer. But again, I do the same process starting from here. I do 10 divided by 60, get the answer. Then I do plus 8. Then I get the answer, do divided by 60 again. And then I'm going to do 56 point that degrees and get the answer. So here's how we do it. Let's try it together on our calculator. All right, clear everything out. So you're going to do 10 divided by 60. Then hit enter. Oops, clear it out. I didn't do something right here. 10 divided by 60, hit enter. You get a decimal. Now do plus 8. So plus 8, hit enter. Now do divided by 60 again. Okay, and this time you can see what I get, 0.13611. You can stop the video to double check if you want. So then I'm going to add 56, so plus 56, hit enter. So now I have 56 plus that long decimal. I want the secant of that. And then I'm thinking, oh man, there's no secant button on my calculator. What am I going to do? So on the calculator, there's the sine, the cosine, and the tangent. And I don't know if you remember, but when we were doing the 6 trig functions, I always had you write the partner functions next to them. The partner for sine is cosecant. For cosine is secant. That's a hint. And for tangent is cotangent. So I can't use the secant button. I have to use the cosine button. So you have to know something about the relationship between cosine and secant. Do you remember what that relationship is? They're reciprocals of each other. Right. So if this was 1/3, this would be 3/1, right? So I can do the cosine. If I want the secant, I do the cosine of that angle, and then I do the reciprocal of it. So we're going to do cosine, and we've got this in our calculator, so cosine's second answer. And hit enter, you'll get your answer. But I don't want the cosine, I want the secant, so I have to take the reciprocal of that. Well, there's a little button on your calculator that will do the reciprocal. It's the x-1 key. So see if you can find that key and do that key next to the answer, and it will flip it over for you, and you should be able to get the final answer as 1.7946. And again, I'm always rounding to 4 decimal places. It was 794617.265 if you want to check it on your own calculator. So that's how to do the the angles that are reciprocal angles. So whenever you have to do the secant or the cosecant or the cotangent of some angle, just do its partner function, and then when you get the answer, flip it over. Take the reciprocal of it. And that should work. Try these. Make sure you check your answers with the answers in the back of the book so that you're getting these right, because it's a little bit tricky when you're trying to figure out what's going on here. Now, the next section deals with when you're given these decimal numbers, how can you find what the angle is? So that's a little bit trickier to do. Let's see if we can do that. Okay, so number 44 out of the textbook says the cosine of theta equals this 4-place decimal 0.9848. What is the acute angle that stands for? And this again is totally 100% down on your calculator, and that's where you use the sine -1, cosine -1, or tangent -1 keys. All right, and basically that does not flip over those functions. What it does is it gets you the angle, or it gets back to the angle when you know the decimal equivalent of that angle. So, so which key do you think I'm going to use for this one if I want to find the angle when I have the answer to the cosine of some angle? What is the angle? Again, that's cosine, so I'm going to use the cosine -1 key. Now, again, they asked for degrees, so make sure you're in degree mode. And then it's pretty easy. You clear out your calculator, and then you type in the cosine -1 key by using the yellow button first. Okay? And then you're going to type in 0.9848, and then hit enter. And it gives me 10.0025. So that means that theta equals 10.0025 degrees. Now, if I asked you to round it to the nearest degree, then you could say 10 degrees. If I want the radians for that, I can change this to radian mode and do the same thing. So I'm going to hit my mode button, and I'm going to change now to radian mode, and hit clear again. And now do, again, the cosine -1 key, so second cosine, type in 0.9848, and this time my answer should be in radians, and theta equals 0.1746 radians, okay? So the calculator will figure radians or degrees for you. Make sure you're aware of what mode you're in and pay attention to what type of answer they want. Do they want degrees or radians? And these are pretty straightforward. But what happens when I do some of the partner functions? For example, suppose I want to do cosecant of theta equals 3, right? There's no cosecant button. So the only thing I can do is the sine of theta, right? And use its reciprocal. So I use the sine inverse key, so second sine, and then I do, and I put this in parentheses, so parenthesis, 1 divided by 3.000, close parenthesis, hit enter, and I get the radians. I get the degree in radians, and did I want radians? No, I didn't. I wanted degrees. Well, I didn't change my calculator, so it's 0.3398 in radians. Let's check it out in degrees. So let's change my mode. Let's go back to degrees, enter. All right, clear it out. So now I'm going to do the sine inverse of 1 divided by 3.000, and I get 19.47 degrees. 19.47 degrees. And you know, I could change it to radians and see if I got the right radians. Do you remember the conversion? Times something by what? Pi over 180, right? So times pi divided by 180, and I get 0.3398. So I did the conversion to check to see if I can figure out the radians by using my formula, but of course you can put this in radians also. So do we want to do one more of these tricky ones? Let's try one more. So suppose I want the secant of theta equals 3.555, and I want to know what the theta is. Well, what's the partner function for secant? Cosine. So cosine of theta would equal 1 over 3.555. And then now use the cosine -1 key, right? And then type in 1 divided by 3.555, and then hit enter, and you should get the answer. And the answer should come out to 73.7 degrees. And then you can do it again and check for radians if you want. I mean, you can do it in the other mode to get the radian answer instead of the degree answer, or you can convert it. Now, suppose I don't want a decimal point. Suppose I want minute, degrees, and seconds. Do you know what to do then? Of course you do. You take your decimal point, right? Times it by 60, write that answer, and then times it by 60 again. You want me to do that all the way through? Okay, I don't have much room on the board, but let's do it here. So, I got my answer. I'm going to start right from scratch again. So, second cosine, 1 divided by 3.555, close parenthesis, and I get 73 73.66253, and it goes on forever. So I want degree minutes and seconds, so it's 73 degrees. So subtract 73, hit enter, take that decimal, now I have just the decimal part, times it by 60, hit enter, and I get 39 point something, so write down the 39 minutes. Now I'm going to subtract the 39, hit enter, I got 0.75, take that, times it by 60, and I get 45, so 45 seconds, and round it, so it rounds to 45 seconds. And that's how to change this decimal number into degree minutes and seconds. And of course, we did that before, so you should be able to do that. It's kind of a no-brainer, but make sure you can do both. All right, good luck with the homework.